going on, everybody? So we have a fun review today as we're talking Havoc. Rarely do these days, unfortunately, do I cover Netflix movies. There are just so many things to cover, and usually these streaming movies fall by the wayside. But considering that I'm a big Tom Hardy fan, but more so the fact that Gareth Evans is a fantastic director and has not directed a feature-length film since 2018's Apostle, this was definitely on my radar. I was very excited for it. After a drug deal gone wrong, a bruised detective must fight his way through the criminal underworld to rescue a politician's estranged son, unraveling a deep web of corruption and conspiracy that ensnares his entire city. If there's going to be one major takeaway from Havoc that I'm sure most people are going to be discussing about the film, it has to do with the action sequences. Now, I love me a good action movie, and sadly we haven't had too many of them so far in 2025, but Havoc is utterly relentless. There's so much brutality. All of the different action set pieces in Havoc are intense, filled with blood, and like I said, are just utterly brutal, like you would expect from the director of The Raid and The Raid 2. What I loved here, though, about Havoc is how Gareth Evans meticulously ramps up the insanity each and every shootout and hand-to-hand fight that's perfectly executed to feel the brutality on display with each and every stab and punch. If I had to pick my favorite action set piece of Havoc, it is really tough because there's two in particular that really stick out to me, and that's the sequence set within the club and also the third act final battle that just goes completely off the rails by its conclusion. Strictly focusing on the club sequence, I have to admit I was really impressed how Tom Hardy and Timothy Olyphant pull off these grueling, extended, multi-stage fights. I'm sure to some degree there are stunt doubles involved, but for the most part you see them full view doing all this choreography, and it looks like it's actually Tom Hardy and Timothy Olyphant doing a lot of this stuff. And when I say a lot of the action in Havoc is insane, from the very opening high-speed chase where someone chucks a washing machine out of a semi-truck onto someone's windshield, I immediately knew that this movie was going to be balls to the wall crazy. What made some of these action sequences so much more fun, all the different unorthodox weapons for Tom Hardy to pick up and use to murder people with. The amount of carnage that Tom Hardy solely inflicts upon people in this hour-and-a-half long film is pretty commendable. Expect lots of bodies flying, blood spraying, guts and gore. Hand-to-hand choreography and shootouts are exciting and all, but what makes some of these movies more unique to me, not to compare the two, but like in John Wick, when John Wick kills somebody with a pencil or a book, stuff like that. Some of the coolest ones in my opinion was someone getting shot with a harpoon gun. There's even one stretch that I almost want to look away at where Tom Hardy picks up this giant hook and turns into the fisherman from I Know What You Did Last Summer and starts fighting people with it. And that's just a sprinkling of the wild things you're going to see unfold in Havoc with these action set pieces. Being somebody also that is a big MMA fan, a big surprise to me when it comes to the cast and the action is the fact that Michelle Waterson, the karate hottie, is in this as an assassin, even having a very memorable 1v1 fight against Tom Hardy. It does fall into that trope that is kind of tiring with the action genre, the silent Asian trope, because she doesn't have any lines of dialogue. But strictly from a physicality point of view, she does a fantastic job. As for a lot of the other aspects for Havoc, I mean, let's be real, I think the majority of people going into watching Havoc are here for the incredible action. The story, for the most part, while it's fast-paced and engaging enough to keep your interest following Tom Hardy slowly uncover the seedy underbelly of shady individuals in his inner circle and gangs while trying to find Forrest Whitaker's son, as the story unfolds, you're probably going to be thinking to yourself, a lot of the aspects of the story feel incredibly familiar, and that is very much a true feeling, because Havoc shares a lot of the same ingredients plot-wise to hundreds of other action movies in the genre. You've got your disgruntled, ruthless detective with a dark past that wants out of this life, a morally questionable politician, a young, inexperienced partner that the lead doesn't like at first, and for your antagonist, just insert generic gang that has a lot of different people the lead can kill. Regardless of the narrative not having the most originality, I do think for the most part this small cast does a solid job. Of course, Tom Hardy shoulders the majority of the workload in the film. You totally do buy into him being this unhinged, badass cop who's at his wit's end dealing with demons from his past, occasionally causing him to snap at people who frustrate him while on his mission. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but every now and then he'll just snap at somebody and I thought it was pretty funny. Who knows necessarily if this is going to spawn some type of franchise, like an Extraction. I'm sure Netflix probably would hope so, especially considering they do plant some seeds for his character and backstory that they could pay off in a future film, I guess, if they wanted a Havoc too. So for as where it stands currently, I wouldn't mind a sequel exploring this character more. Timothy Olyphant, for the most part, when he shows up, you know, he gives the performance that you're expecting. He's this guy that has this very smug attitude about him. And he does add a nice contrast to his dynamic with Tom Hardy. Unfortunately, the longer he's on screen and you understand more of his backstory between him and Tom Hardy's character and these other cops, if you've watched any action movie before, you pretty much can see where his character will head within the story before it happens. All biases aside, because I quite like Jessie Mei Li as a major Shadow and Bone fan. Speaking of Netflix, I will never forgive them for canceling that show after 2 seasons. I really wish that Jessie Mei Li had more scenes in this. It's a pretty standard character, and in the few sequences that she has with Tom Hardy, I think they had pretty good chemistry. They just don't have very many scenes together. I think in total they had maybe 5-6 scenes together throughout the entire movie because they're usually in completely different locations. For a while, I was really nervous because there's so much action popping off throughout this movie. He was not really involved in any of it in any shape or form. And thankfully, the climax of the movie hits and she does this diving shotgun move that I thought was so awesome. Forrest Whitaker, his role is incredibly small, but I do think what he's trying to give here with his performance has some nuance. There's an attempt to have an emotional hook with his character since him and his son that Tom Hardy's trying to rescue have this disgruntled relationship, and that more or less I do feel like pays off by the conclusion of the film. Interestingly, if you weren't aware or not, Havoc for the most part was shot many years ago, back in 2021, but so many different delays, whether that be scheduling issues, the SAG strikes, and Gareth Evans wanting to do reshoots, and those didn't even end up happening until 2024. At this point, I'm just glad that he finally actually was able to finish the movie after so many years in development, but you can certainly tell in some instances where some of these reshoots are. Didn't take me out of the movie or anything, but there's just some scenes where you can definitely tell they look a little different, but they tried their best to cover it up. So many years between shooting these scenes. As far as Havoc is concerned, while the story offers an all-around familiarity, Gareth Evans' signature relentless, bloody action is the main factor into why this movie is a fun time. Another detail that I find kind of funny about Havoc is the fact that this actually is a Christmas movie. Occasionally the film reminds you of that with different Christmas music, and the movie is bookended by Tom Hardy trying to give his daughter a Christmas present. It makes it kind of weird that this movie is releasing in April and not around Christmas time, but maybe the idea is to release it now, and you could throw this in your Christmas rotation with all your other action movies around Christmas time. Die Hard, in my opinion, is a Christmas movie, so maybe you could have a double feature of Havoc and Die Hard if you're really into some gory movies for the holidays. Once you get a chance to check out Havoc on Netflix tomorrow, make sure you share your thoughts down below. What'd you think of the film? Did you like the film? Did you not like the film? Thank you guys. As always, checking out videos. I always do appreciate it. Make sure you like the video and also subscribe to the channel. So many reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.